everybody. Welcome to La Lista, a LatinX writers podcast. I am your host, Ruben Mendive, and today we have a brand new guest here brought to you via virtual studio. So I like to start every conversation by having my guests introduce themselves. So your name and how you identify for the people at home.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation. My name is Lorena Gordon. I'm a writer-director, originally from New York, queer, and just liking telling compelling stories.
My follow-up question is always, where are you from? And what's the short version? What's the long version? What do you tell people when they ask you that?
Yeah, I'm very proud. I was born and raised in Queens, New York. So I feel so lucky to have been born and raised and growing up being in this melting pot of a city. I feel like it opened my eyes to different cultures and ethnicities and just, people from all walks of life. And that's something that I hold very dear to my heart, that it opened my eyes at a very young age. So,
and, I've actually had a couple guests who are from Queens, but how would you describe it to someone that's never been there? What was it like growing up there?
Talk about just, you have every, it's such a huge borough. And in case if anyone doesn't know, so New York City is comprised of 5 boroughs, in Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And Queens just has every neighborhood of, you have your Salvadorian, your Mexican, your Colombian, your Asian neighborhood, everything you can possibly imagine. And I just think of a melting pot, literally. Queens, every culture, every type of, community you could ever possibly imagine is there.
And, I like to get a family history. So what's your parents, grandparents' story? What do you know about who they are and where they're from?
My mom was born in Ecuador, and that's where she met my father. My parents got divorced when I was 4, so I know more about my mom's side of the family. Her dad, so my grandfather, was a bullfighter in Colombia and in Ecuador, and the rest of her family is still there. It's a culture we are very proud of, just continuing the history of trajectory. I mean, you can. Bullfighting, I guess, is considered an art form, but I think, speaking for myself, I think being a storyteller was new for my family. I mean, they probably had no idea or didn't even know that could be a possibility. So it's been amazing to open their eyes to this possibility of storytelling and writing and film and all of that.
And do you know why your parents left Ecuador and why Queens?
My father at the time was working for an airline. He, just, I guess, saw opportunity. And, now looking back, I just am so thankful that they did make that decision to come to the States. And my mom, they were already having issues of their own, but for her to look at the opportunity that he would give myself, and I have an older brother who's 6 years older than me, to give us both just, I guess, the opportunities that they, probably would have wanted for us. And I'm so thankful for that.
I'm always curious about people during their high school years. 14 to 18, I frame it in these 3 questions. Who were you? Who were you pretending to be? And how do you think other people saw you?
That was probably the most challenging years was my teenage years. I mean, I knew I was gay since I was 8 years old. So I had carried this burden and I was so deep in the closet. And I think those were the pivotal years where it really is just clear to you, people are dating, your friends are dating and all of that. And I just wasn't partaking in any of that. So I just felt weird and awkward because of that. And also at the age of 18, I was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. And I mean, no one was dealing with that, or no one I knew at the time in my school. So I just, was away from school for, a couple of months and dealing with my medical stuff, dealing with feeling alienated pretty much because of that. Also because I had this huge secret that no one knew about. and I couldn't act upon it. And I liked movies and music, and I didn't fit into any clique or anything like that. So yeah, I think I was just, and I was a basketball player too. So it was just a weird combination. I think I just wanted to, just deep down inside, I think I just wanted to be myself. And if that meant not having any friends, then that was it. But there's also like a twist to that, because I wasn't being truthful to myself, you know? So I think I just wanted to fast forward those years and get to the point where I could get my shit together. And others probably thought I was just, again, this like awkward girl who liked movies, played basketball, and kept to herself and was really shy and quiet.
Yeah, so I am curious about lupus just because it's something you hear about when a celebrity has it, but I don't actually know what it is. Can you just talk us through that journey of like, because you're still like a kid and now you're just like finding out that you have lupus. So like, what was that journey like?
Oh my God, that was such a pivotal moment. I mean, I was 13, so still young, you know. It just forever changed what I wanted to do and my determination to not let this autoimmune disease control my life in any way, or, you know, or detour me from what I always wanted to do, which is to, you know, be a storyteller. So I just used it as motivation. But I mean, it was pretty, the first couple of months of being diagnosed. I mean, you know, going to the doctors and taking all these medications, and also learning about this disease, because I had no idea what it was. I just remember, you know, as they gave us the news, my mom was sitting next to me and she just started crying. So I don't think it hit me until later on. But I just honestly knew that I had to put my part in making sure that I was doing everything I possibly could to keep that disease under control. And like I said, not let it ruin my life. And that's what I tell everyone, you know, other lupus patients as well, that you have to really do your part in controlling it. It's a disease that you can have a quote unquote like normal life if, you know, if you do your part and take your medications and all of that. But, you know, it has its ups and its downs. You know, sometimes I'm like 110%, and then sometimes I'm like, you know, 50% and not feeling all that great. So you just have to, you know, learn your body. And here was another thing too that I learned, was that I wasn't going to let the lupus limit me in any way. You know, if anything, I would learn how to pivot, and like learning how to pivot became the ultimate like saving grace of navigating this industry, life, and so many other things.
And so like, what'd you do after high school? Like, did you have a plan? Did things go according to plan?
Yeah. So in high school, I just knew I had to go to college, you know, like that's what our parents, you know, bestow on us. And they're like, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And I loved film. So I was like, I should go to film school and, you know, see how that works out. So I ended up going to the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And I went there for 2 years. And, you know, I was very lucky to start working as a production assistant. I think I was 18 when I worked on my first set ever. And it was the best thing ever. I mean, I learned so much within like that 1 week of working on the production. And I got hit by the bug, and I like kept on doing it. You know, I would do it on weekends. I would do it when there was like a break, you know, in school. So, I think school I don't know, I just lost interest and lost interest. And I, you know, felt like I just wasn't being pushed to my fullest potential. Here I was making these compelling drama short, you know, projects for class, and everyone was just making like something else. And I didn't feel like, you know, those $30,000 were being well spent. So I had a talk with a professor of mine who I respected so dearly. His name was Chris Newman, and he was the sound recordist for The Godfather and the original Exorcists, and so respected in the industry. And I said, I don't know what to do. Again, single mom. I'm like, we can't afford this. I know this is what I want to do. Like, what do I do? And he said, you got it. Don't worry. He's like, you have my blessing. Just leave school, but keep working and keep learning and keep doing. And that stayed with me. And I think that gave me the boost of confidence of someone who I looked up to and considered a great mentor to see something in me and know that I was going to go down the road less traveled, but we were going to make it happen.
You mentioned that you knew out of high school that you wanted to like go into film. So where did that start? Like, can you trace that back to like how you knew that this was something you wanted to pursue professionally?
Yeah, I think it was the first time I saw a live action film that live action film was Titanic. And I was 9 years old. And I remember being in the theater just crying at the end of that film, when Jack Dawson was drowning. I was like, wow, what is happening to me? As a 9-year-old, you're just like, whoa, you think movies are just magic and they just appear, every weekend on the theater. And once I learned that there was a writer and a director and a whole, crew of people that come together to make this idea come to life. I mean, I was just like besides myself. I was like, yes, I want to do that. I was always artistic. I always felt like I could, like I said, I was very shy, very, reserved. So I was able to express myself when writing or when picking up a camcorder and making short little projects in Central Park with my cousins and my brother. Like that's where I felt alive in a way and felt like I just felt empowered and I could say everything that I couldn't say.
Leaving school is like a big decision. It's a big leap, Did you get a sense of like what other people thought about it? And like what were you actually able to make from that decision?
It was a hard decision because I knew how much it would, break my mother's heart, and she is just my hero, and everything that I do and continue to do is for her. She, like I said, got divorced when I was 4 and she supported her 2 children by herself. And she's just the most resilient woman I know. So to throw her this other, burden of like, hey, I'm going to drop out. I knew she wasn't going to be too thrilled, but I think once she saw that I wasn't just like sitting on my ass, but I was like going and putting myself out there and making these connections in New York, which was great because, it's like a small little community. The independent scene of like the same crews work on the different projects. And once I was in there, I mean, I was working for a good 2 solid years of just PAing. And I think once she saw that she felt more comfortable with what the decision I had made. And I mean, as an artist, I think you just have to put blinders on regardless of what people think and not really let it affect you in any way. But, you can take it in, but let it go right out the other ear, because I think, yeah, you can't please everyone. And the ultimate person that you have to satisfy is yourself. And if you know that you're, in the right path, and yeah, just keep going.
What do you feel like you were able to take away from like those years of like leaving school and then being a PA, like both practically and then also just like a career and life in general?
It was just so eye-opening how much I learned about running a set and what each department, is responsible for. I've worked with some really great, amazing directors, that we admire, and also some really not great directors. So it's like learning, okay, this is what I should be taking in. Oh, you shouldn't do this. So it was just like I said, like free, like film 101, and seeing it firsthand. I'm a person who learns by doing. So being able to be on set and help the ADs and help, talent and all of that. I mean, it was just the best experience possible. And for myself, I felt that I had gained confidence from, like I said, learning from really shitty directors of like, oh, if they can do this, then like, why the hell not? So I think that was a big turning point too. Once I think I was 23 or 22, having all these projects under my belt, working as a production assistant, that then, the light switch went off and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to, make an independent short film, on my own with the help of my brother. And let's see what happens.
What did you make, and like sort of can you take us through the journey of like now yourself sort of like taking the training wheels off and like becoming a filmmaker?
Yeah. It was exhilarating. It was a little scary because at this point, I mean, I don't have the support of, my school, for equipment and all of that stuff. I mean, it was literally going out to friends to help me and help get equipment and crew and all of that. So in a way, it was just exhilarating, exciting. And, I'm trying to remember like the first short film that I wrote was called The Cure, and we shot it on film. I was working with actors who, were respected actors in the New York scene already, and just for them to say yes to this short independent, project meant the world. And again, gave me this boost. It's about finding people who believe in you and believe in the vision and believe in the story that you're trying to tell. And once you gather that tribe, I mean, you just feel so powerful and you feel like you can really do anything. So yeah, it was just writing stories at the time. I mean, in order to make these short projects, I mean, I was like, I have to write them. That's how I ended up being a writer, was because no one was going to like hire me to direct their short films. Everyone's so precious about their material. So I was like, you know what, I have things I have to say, and let's, see what comes out of this. So I was very proud of those great learning experiences, now looking back and seeing those shorts. But I'm so proud.
And I am curious about the like New York like filmmaking scene. Like, how would you describe it? Because I feel like it's very elusive. Just we hear word of it on the West Coast, but I don't think we know all that much about it.
It's, to put it like one word, hustle. Hustle, hustle, hustle. I mean, you're talking about like there's constantly projects happening, whether it's film school or not related to film school at all. I mean, you could be on the subway and there's someone, I mean, even though it's like technically illegal, but like with their camera, like, guerrilla style. Yeah, everyone in New York has that mentality of like, just do it. Like, don't ask for permission, just do it. Like, so that was something that I'm, going back to why I'm so grateful to have been born and raised in that city. I mean, it taught me so much, and definitely it instilled in me the hustle and that mentality of you got to keep going, you have to keep going, and don't ask for permission from anyone, So I would say that it was just the tenacity of these, New Yorkers to just make projects and not wait for someone to give you a permit. Just do it.
Yeah, don't ask for permission and don't ask for permits. We talked about you leaving school and then making, your own film. So like, what do you feel like was the next leap forward after that, where you were like, all right, time to make another big move? So like, what was that for you?
Yeah. So I would say the first big short that we made was Times Like These. And it was a film that I wrote. I knew that the first piece that I put out into the world, mind you, the other shorts that I had made in school, like those were for me and to learn and all of that. But I was like, okay, this is something that I want to create and give to the world. And it was a story I wrote about my mother's experience and just the resilience of, at that time also, I feel like domestic violence was such a taboo subject, and you would see it here and there, but I didn't see my mother's story, and I wanted the world to see that. So I wrote the script for her, and was so just grateful the actors that came on board. And it was my first time working with a child actor, and like that was a first. And I was so proud. We were so proud of it. And we went to festivals and it got picked up. And I think the biggest takeaway from that was just how much that film resonated with people. I mean, we got invited to domestic violence organizations, to shelters, and hearing these survivors speak about their experience and how much watching this film hit home. I mean, it was a full circle moment because at the time I just knew I wanted to write something personal to me and my family and get something off my chest. But for it to resonate with strangers, complete strangers, I mean, it was just incredible, an incredible feeling. So I did that. And then I was finishing up post-production on that film. And I had come to LA to visit because my brother had moved out here already. And it just felt like home. It just felt like a place that welcomed me with open arms. And, I knew there was something here that I needed to discover, and I couldn't do it back home. So we like packed up and we moved across the country and moved out here to LA. And here is ultimately where I was able to discover my identity and be my authentic self. And it's when I came out is once I had moved out here and started really, really living, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, I'm famous for saying the first 2 years are the hardest in LA. If you could sort of make it through those first 2 years, you sort of know you're here to stay. Because you can move back at any time. So like, what were those first 2 years like? Like, what was the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I don't know. There's just this sense of magic. I know this sounds really cheesy, but here in Los Angeles, I mean, you think back about the history and all those stories that you hear growing up, the people that packed their car and moved out west to make their dreams happen. And then you're here, like, holy shit, like I'm a part of that now. Like I'm doing it. I'm trying. I'm really trying. So yeah, it was just exciting. I think there was this like fire in me that just sparked. And I think it was a big chunk of that was also the fact that I had, like I said, I had come out. I've been able to now, as an artist, also write stories that I wanted to write for the longest, but I was so scared to do so. Yeah, it just felt like a rebirth in many ways. And that's what I was excited about. The bad, maybe like dating for the first time and like what that was like. Cause like I said, I didn't date in high school, and navigating the scene, the community, and all of that. I mean, yeah. So I just felt like I was a late bloomer. And I think that was like the only thing that I was like, this is kind of lame, but
I am curious about your impressions of like the LA filmmaking scene. Like, how do you compare it to New York? Like, what is it? Or what has been your experience of it?
I feel like it's less like the tenacity and the hustle of New York. But here, I mean, you have the luxury of being in a city where everyone's trying to make it, so everyone's trying to like pull themselves and like pull you and you pull them and all of that. And I think that it's just this great community. And the more as time goes by and the more people you meet, you realize everyone knows each other, which is a crazy thing because it's such a big city. So I've learned that. I've learned that, someone who knows this person, who knows that person. It's just funny and great, so.
How you sort of got on my radar was with your film At Last. So can you just sort of walk us through the journey of how you got to that film and then like sort of making it?
For my second project, there was like a gap, between projects, and I was just living and experiencing life. And, I remember it just hit me, when I was like, what can I make next? And I'd come out, I was proud of who I am and like embracing myself. And then I was like, you know what? Oh my God, in high school, like, especially prom, that the one night that kept coming to mind was prom night. I mean, I was in heels, belt up, like hair up, like it was the whole shebang. And I I was just not happy. Like I had the smile on my face. Like I looked back at the pictures, but I could see deep, deep down inside how unhappy I was and how much I wished I could have, dressed in a tux or, just express myself the way I wanted to express myself. But there was so much fear. Like I wish I could convey to you just the fear of rejection and not being accepted. Like it just weighed over me so heavily. And I was like, you know what? I have yet to see that experience on screen of a Latinx, teenager and what it's like to have a support system and to be accepted by your family and give hope. I think the big thing that we wanted to do with this film was to give hope and start a conversation and change hearts. So the idea came of, to vicariously write this coming of age story about a girl who manages to come out on prom. So I think selfishly, I just wanted to relive my prom experience through this character. Yeah, I'm so happy that I wrote it. I felt like it was a piece that I was dying to get on page, and with all the components aligning and everything aligning so beautifully, we were able to make that happen.
Yeah, and the first thing that jumped out at me when I sort of heard of you and your film was, and I think this maybe might be the question everyone asks you, but like, how the hell did you get George Lopez to be in your short film?
Manifestation at its finest, I think, is the answer. I mean, we grew up watching him, on television as the dad, as our dad. And I secretly wrote it with him in mind. I had everyone else pretty much attached of who I wanted, these characters to be. And it's just one of those things, just serendipitously meeting this man and going up to him. And it's one of those things too, where it's like when opportunity and preparation meet, and just having this pitch for myself and pitching the project, that he saw something in me and was just like, then and there, it gave me his word of, yes, I'll help you. And, you're like, yeah, okay. Like, you meet people all the time in Hollywood and, you hope that they respond to your emails or get back to you. And this just seemed very genuine, and he kept his word. I mean, it was so surreal to see him there, on set, and to see him with the rest of the cast. I mean, yeah, it was a dream come true. I still sometimes have to be like, wow, did that really happen? Because it was just, but again, putting in the work and not giving up and being persistent, I think that's when he was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. Like, you have your shit together. Like I see the vision. So let's go for it.
And like, what was it like to have him like read the script, and then next thing you know, you're directing him? Like, this is like a big name. Like, he's like, emotionally, what were you going through? What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying not to be nervous. But again, he's just such a genuine soul. And we just talked a lot about just the backstory. At that point, he knew a little bit about me and my own personal relationship to the material. But I mean, he's a dad as well. And we just talked about, what those conversations look like and what we're trying to aim to do with the piece. And I mean, he gives such a just beautiful performance that we had people like after watching the film be like, oh my God, like this is how a parent needs to react. And it just came from such a truthful place. And I think as a collaborator, I'm a big actor's director. We didn't get the chance obviously to rehearse with him. So it was literally on the day that he just like pulled these performances out, and we were like, wow, like he had everyone literally in tears behind the monitor. But yeah, it was just conveying to him just the backstory. And I mean, I came out to my brother, like, so that scene where, Lauren is coming out to him, I mean, that was like verbatim my conversation with my brother. And yeah, you just give your actors like these little tidbits, but they, in their mind and in their heart, throw you something else, and that adds and enhances, and you're like, wow, this is incredible. Like, yeah.
I'm very curious about this thing, and it's like how this industry works, but I'm very curious of like sometimes the difference between something happening and something not happening is, doing the ask. So like, how did you get to a point where you felt like you could go and ask George Lopez if you felt like not even just that specific conversation, but like the place where you're just like, if I want to make it happen, I need to make it happen. And like, can you talk us through that journey of like,
Yeah. Again, and I go back, that's why I was like, this is going to be like a recurring theme in New York. Like, I don't know. I think it's also something that our mother also instilled in us, of like working hard and not giving up and being persistent if it's something you truly believe in. And I mean, I remember just going up to just crew members whenever I would walk around the city and people were filming, like I would try to find like the first AD or the key PA and just be like, hi, my name is Lorena. Like, here's my phone number if you ever need a PA. Like, even though like that was terrifying. I mean, like I said, I was such a shy person, but I knew in order to, like, no one was going to come knock on my door and be like, all right, so what do you want to do? Okay, here it is. Or like, here's a show like you can work on. Like, no one was going to do that for me. So I had to go out of my comfort zone to do it. And once like doors started opening and opportunities started, presenting itself, I was like, oh, okay. All right. So I guess this is what I have to do. And yeah, same thing. Like, even once I moved out here, I think, and even having the nerves to go up to someone, like George, and say that, I think it was just, no one was going to do it for me. You could do it the all traditional route, but no one's going to see the vision. No one's going to understand. I have to do it myself, and then he'll get it and he'll see in my eyes, which he did. So I think is just like not asking, like I said, like not asking for permission, but again, doing it in a very like humble, respectful way, but also knowing that you do deserve, you are deserving of every opportunity if you work hard for it. And like I said, you have to prepare, because these opportunities come once in like whatever, but you have to be ready and do the work and believe in yourself. I think that's the one thing that people can read off of someone, right? It's like, okay, yeah, this person has their shit together, and like I could trust them. And I think that was something I, again, instilled, by my mother, and also instilled as a young teenager going around the city trying to get herself PA jobs.
So I'm curious about the hustle of like, you've made a film and now you're like, you got to let people know about it. And so like, can you sort of talk us through that experience of like how you sort of promote the film and like put it out there for people to see?
So we shot this in January of 2020. So literally before the pandemic and before we knew that the world was going to change forever. We premiered in November of 2020 at Holly Shorts. And all these festivals that we've been doing since then have all been virtual, and it's been bittersweet, great that more people get to watch, the film, and we get a broader audience, and sad that it wasn't presented on a big screen like we envisioned it and worked so hard for. Like I said, it's such a poignant story, and one that has resonated with people, and people have reacted so well. I mean, we just had our first in-person screening on Sunday. And when I tell you that there was no dry eyes in that theater, like it was crazy. It was crazy. It was so magical to hear these reactions live, like right in front of you. And for people to come up and say, my sister is 13 and she's still in the closet, and watching this just like open my eyes to how hard this conversation is for her. And I have so much more love and respect for her. I mean, like crazy. But then again, that's why we're storytellers, and that's why we make stories that we hope people resonate with, and they take whatever you hope that they receive something, whatever that is. That's when you know that you've done your job. So it's continuing to spread the word. And I mean, we've been working on, the longer length, feature for this. So that's also been exciting now that people, are a fan of the short and are invested in these characters and invested in the story. It's exciting to know, where we're headed.
And like you mentioned, the film was just at La Leaf and it was in person in theater. So can you just talk about that experience after like a year of having this film just sort of like circulate through the internet to then have it out in the world? Also, and also just like, what was it like to see people and like be in a room with them?
It was weird. I'm not gonna lie. It was weird. Someone made the joke and was like, I feel like, we're in like the prohibition era and like someone's gonna like knock on the door and be like, all right, guys, break it up, break it. Because it felt incredible to see people face to face, connect. And, the screening was sold out. It was a sold out show. And we had the cast, part of the crew, like everyone who worked their asses off there. And it was their first time seeing it for myself as well. I mean, I've seen the film over 100 times. And I mean, from the first frame, I was just bawling. I think I was emotional for many, many reasons. One being the fact that we're finally here with an audience. I'm here with the people and the village that it took to make this vision come to life. Also, because 11 years ago at prom, I would have never in a billion years imagined that experience, feeling like an outsider, feeling weird and uncomfortable with my sexuality, that 11 years later, I would have the courage to write a story about that night and make it into a film and share it with people. I think that was like I have no words. I mean, it was a full circle moment and one that I will remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And so like, what do you got cooking up next?
Yeah. So right now we're working on the feature script for At Last. So I've been working on that and yeah, just excited to get that off the ground and just keep making these stories that need to get told. I mean, I always like promised myself that the stories that I would write would be ones that resonate. And again, going back to being born and raised in Queens, I mean, about just the reality of our world, which is, just all these amazing cultures and all these people that have yet to be seen on screen and tell their stories. Like we need to do that and we need to show people, I feel like part of the reason why there is just homophobia or racism or all of that, it's like the fear of the unknown. But the more that we tell these stories and we tell them with care and we tell them with a lot of heart, that we all will realize that we're just human beings. We all want the same things. We all experience the same things, like the same emotions and all of that. And I think that is what that is my mission as a storyteller is to give people a platform, people with disabilities, people within the LatinX community, people in the LGBT community, just tell these truthful stories.
Queerness for you was sort of like a journey. And I'm curious if you had that same thing with like your Latinx identity, like where do you sit in that space?
I don't know. I feel like when I was younger, obviously I wasn't comfortable with my sexuality, and I'm sure not even like with my culture. I just like for those periods of time, I felt like I was just like living. I was just like existing. I was going to school, do homework, come back. Like that was it. It wasn't until I got older, and I think part of it too was being able to be myself and be my true self and embracing that part of me that also helped me embrace, my Latinx, experience and my family's history. And we're so proud, I'm so proud to be from, parents that are from Ecuador and, came to this country, and we're all immigrants. And that's something I say, like, we're all immigrants, and, bringing our own, whatever that is, that sets each family apart, tradition or whatever, and bring it to this country, and we embrace it and we make it our own. And I think that's what makes this country so beautiful, is just all these diverse families and point of views and people, making it our own. I think that's really beautiful.
What do you feel like are common themes in your storytelling? Sometimes as writers, we tell the same story over and over. So like, if you could pick a couple through lines that you see through all your writing, like what would they be?
Definitely like the underdog story. I always felt like the underdog growing up, and just relationships. I think as someone who's come from, a broken home, but also with a home with so much love. I mean, my mom and my brother made me feel like there was never a missing piece in our family. And I think that's really, really powerful, and has just planted the seed of telling relationship stories, whether that's, like family dynamics or like romantic relationships. Yeah, I just like human connection. And I know when I'm watching a film, and I can tell when something is like the writer has experienced it, or it's coming from a deep place. I mean, I feel like I'm in for a treat. We're getting an inside peek at this experience. So that's what I like to do with my writing, is having it either be derived from something I personally experienced, or something that I feel deeply passionate about, and I feel like I want to uncover with an audience and ask these questions and discover them with you.
So I'm always curious of like, who are the people who my guests are fans of? So these could be heroes, friends, peers, people that you creep on social media who don't know you're obsessed with them, but you are constantly thinking about them. So who are some of those creatives for you?
He's not on social media, but he's someone whose art, I mean, I grew up watching. My mom, that's my mom's favorite director besides me, I hope. Pedro Almodovar was someone who I, at a young age, just was so wowed by his work, and how unapologetically he writes, and these films that he makes. And I definitely gravitated towards that. And so he's one. I don't get to creep on him though, because he's not on Instagram.
There is an account, but they just post like
yeah,
stills.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, and every time I see it, I'm like, listen, I needed this today.
So yeah, he is one. Another one would be, just like all the amazing, Tanya Saracho, Gloria Calderon Kellett, like these women who are just like breaking barriers and helping like smash open the door, for all of us. So I think they're like pioneers in their own right.
So where can people follow you on social media?
Sure. So they can follow me at Lorena Gordon on Instagram. And if you want to check out the film or anything about the film updates, it's at the symbol at Last Short Film.
So I like to ask my guests to help me title the episode. So the prompt is a blank Latinx writer, and you can put as many words as you want. You can mix them all around, just whatever feels true to you or conversation you're writing. I also use it as a recruitment tool, so that when someone sees the title, they'll be like, that's like that one, that person's like me. Like I should check out their stuff. I should reach out. I should listen to their story. So what do you got?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one, and I wrote it because I was like, I'm going to forget. So a New York native, LA dreamer telling stories from the heart. I
Perfect.
sums it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. With that, I want to thank you so much